Hi, this is Erica Merrill, and I'm the founder of Perfect Legal Video. And I am very excited, as always, to have with us today attorney Nicole Reeves Lavallee. She is probably my favorite attorney. I know you all know that. Welcome to the show, Nicole. I know you've got something interesting for us today.
Well, it's definitely a relevant topic right now, and hopefully we can figure out the pitfalls and not fall into those.
Yeah, and that's what you always do for us. You really tell us what to look out for and lots of great solutions to solve our problems. Today, we're going to be talking about taxes and children. And I know that can be kind of confusing, and it's something that people settle within their divorce on, who gets to claim the children. And I know we're going to talk about, what are the different options and what are the best options. So first, let's talk about what is the benefit of claiming a child on your tax return?
Well, obviously the benefit is that you're going to get some money back. Whether it's going to be you get money back in terms of a credit, or you don't have to pay as much taxes, or you actually get a refund, that depends on your income, and that depends on other factors that you have that are going onto that tax form. But at the end of the day, you're getting some kind of benefit by claiming that child.
So it sounds like it's really positive. Is there anything that is negative? Is there a downside to claiming a child on your taxes?
Well, the downside is doing it without permission. That's usually the biggest one that people want to get involved in, is they don't understand exactly what the court orders say, or they don't want to follow the court orders because they're not really entitled to it. And something else happened, and even though it says it, I don't want to follow it. So really, the downfall is not following a court order, not treating it as a court order, and obviously the penalties can be very severe for that.
Well, and that makes sense. And I know that during the process of divorce, this is one of the points on the checklist that gets brought up. Who typically makes this decision? Is it the parents or the judge or the lawyers?
Yes. That's a simple answer. It's all of the above. Obviously, if you ask the judge to weigh in, the judge will weigh in. One of the factors the judge is going to look at overall is how much is one of the parents paying for child support, and what other expenses are they paying for this child. That's what they're going to make a determination on. Now, obviously, you can go all out and say, I want to hire an expert, and I want him to do an analysis as to whether I claim this child or don't claim this child, and how that's going to impact us. And this judge would certainly listen to that testimony and make a decision based off of that. So again, depends on where you are in terms of settlement, how much you're going to give the information to the judge, and in what format. Obviously, the other end of that is, yes, you and your attorney should be talking, in which case you're also going to be talking with the other party, and they're going to talk to each other about what the best ramifications are. It's great when you have two kids, because chances are we're going to say we each claim one, and that makes it easy. And then we have 3 kids, or we have 1 kid, and then it throws off all the mix. Or we say, hey, one person's making significantly more and I need to claim them because, oh my God, I'm going to get screwed at the end of the year if I don't claim them. So those are a lot of factors to look into. But again, we're going to start with the same premise as the judge, which is that person paying support, and how much support are they paying? What does that parenting schedule look like? If the parenting schedule is equal, then there's absolutely no reason from the court's perspective that you shouldn't at least get to claim the child alternating if you only have 1 child. So again, we're going to look at all of those factors. We're going to make a determination. It's definitely on a case-by-case basis, so I can't be any more specific. But you need to talk to your attorney about it, figure out what's best for you, figure out what's best for the other party. And again, it's the biggest goal in everybody's mind here, including the attorneys and the judges, is that Uncle Sam doesn't get that money. So who is going to benefit the most? And the judge is going to make the determination that if it is one person benefits the most, that's the person that's going to claim them. That's the underlining rule.
That is very interesting. So can you tell me, if you were never married, you might not go through the same process because you're not going through a divorce and there's not like a big checklist. Who determines the tax benefit in that case?
Well, that's not necessarily true. Um, while you think that's not the case, the reality is if you're going into court and you're asking for a child support order, anytime you address child support, you're going to want to address the tax exemption. So while we don't think it's necessarily going to be something that we're going to include, or we've never filed taxes together because we've never been married, we still have to look at those tax consequences when we're dealing with how and which person is going to be able to claim that child and why. So again, the same factors are going to come into play in terms of who gets to claim them, what are the expenses for this child, what is the child support obligations, what are the activities, what are the parties' respective incomes. So the court will still make the same analysis on that.
So what if you have the kid more than half the time? I mean, is that something that is going to cause you to get to claim the kid on your taxes? Or is it more about who makes more money?
That is simply one factor. Again, we're going to look at the big picture from the IRS standpoint and the DOR standpoint. 150%, you get them more than 50% of the time, you get to claim them. That's what the IRS and that's what DOR says. But that's not what's going to happen in probate court. And so a lot of times people will come up with that assumption that says, well, no, I'm taking care of them 90% of the time. Why wouldn't I claim them? I'm the only one that cares for this child. Well, yes, but your child support, your reimbursements on the extracurriculars, your reimbursements on the medicals, those are support. Those are things that, again, the court's going to look at. So while the IRS may say one thing, the probate court may say something completely different. So it is one factor to look at. Again, if you're not, if you're paying minimum amount on child support and you're paying that $100 a month, well, then guess what? You are most likely going to claim whether you get the kid 50% of the time or 90% of the time. But we have to look at all of those circumstances to make that determination.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. One thing that I was wondering about too is that I know that right now the IRS is sending out money per child, and I just wondered who gets to claim that. If you're not even doing taxes together anymore, how do you even know who's getting COVID relief funds anyway? Is there a danger that your money is going to the wrong place? And how do you figure out that and get it back if that's the case?
When we talked about those pitfalls, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Those are horrible, horrible things. Great. I'm glad that the government's giving you money. The problem is it may not be money that you get to keep. And it's something that you really have to understand. Now, if you're one of those parents that gets to claim the child every year on your taxes, chances are you really don't have to worry about it. But again, if you look at the meaning and the intent behind why the government is giving you this COVID money, why they're allocating it, it's supposed to be for support. So again, if you're getting it because you're the custodial parent and you're the only one making money, then it defeats the entire purpose of what the government is doing. So I would caution you, even if it's 100% of the time you get to claim them on the taxes, don't necessarily run out and spend it. Try to save it, try to deal with your ex, have that conversation with your ex, get something in writing. Because if you don't, that doesn't mean that next year they're not coming after you for it. The biggest problem is going to be when you have alternating. I have one child and I alternate every year. The government is giving that money based off of who you claimed in 2020. So again, what does that look like? We haven't got to 2021. So in 2020, I'm an even year person. I get to claim them. I get to have that money. Well, yes, but we're filing for tax year 2021. So now we run the risk that my husband, who's entitled to claim them, no longer can because he didn't get the money. So now do I have to give that money back to him? Probably. So it's definitely something that, yeah, it's refund money, except it's not really free in the probate world. So you really want to take a look at those consequences because, again, if I don't work out an agreement with him, there could be grave consequences that I have to pay that $300 per child back next year, or I have to pay it back in a couple months. And they always going to be the best time is they're going to wait until January 1st to do it. And you just spent all that money on Christmas, and now what? So you want to think about those consequences. You want to understand that while the government wants to give you free money, it doesn't mean it's free. And it doesn't mean you're entitled to it. So you want to consult with your attorney. You want to go over that agreement specifically with your attorney to understand what your rights are, what the consequences may be, and ultimately what's in the best interest of this child as well as the family.
So that is really interesting because I know it is so confusing. So great idea to give Nicole's office a call. If you have any questions on divorce, children, and taxes, and COVID funding, I'll throw one more in, and it may not exactly have to do with children, but like, what if you're going through a divorce and your spouse got a PPP loan, and that was part of their business and whatever, but it was like right around when your divorce was going on. Is the other spouse entitled to some of that?
Depends on the nature of the business, depends on what the consequences of it says. Certainly it is a factor, absolutely a factor. The question is, again, did they really use that money for their business to stay afloat, to make sure that they were able to pay their child support obligation? Because again, we're not going to lay double dip. If you're getting your child support throughout that entire time, then obviously they needed it to survive. But did they also A, not get it forgiven, or B, get a surplus of the $150,000 that wasn't automatically forgiven? Those are the factors that, again, we're going to look at. Bottom line is you'll probably never get any relief from it, but it'd be very interesting to know if you could, because I think that there's a lot of consequences and there's a lot of conditions that somebody should be looking at when those loans came out. Again, this is a hopefully one-time pandemic thing that's never going to come across our desk again. But it's certainly one of those things that, again, are you staying afloat? You're a restaurant and you're closed because you can't have people come in and you can't afford the staff. Well, you're paying your people. I'm not going to stop anyone from, paying others, but i.e. I got a surplus and I'm using all this money and I'm, upgrading my business and I'm doing other things. Well, you may not get the PPP money, but guess what? That means their business may increase, which means your child support may increase. So that's just another factor to look at that way.
Had to ask the question because, as you said, this is a crazy time, and there's a lot of instances that have never come up in court before because they just have never happened. So it makes this area of the law very interesting, and there's a lot of new updates.
There's a lot of updates. There's going to be a lot more updates coming up. Again, we keep hearing that we're not going to get any more COVID money. Oh, wait, we're getting more COVID money. No, we're not getting any more. So again, we have to look at those circumstances. And, I have seen people run into court, and I've seen the judges kind of do the same analysis that I'm doing. Is we have to look at the big picture. How is this big picture going to help us or hurt us? And how do we move forward from there? So, there's a lot of questions that, we're all feeling out, but I think at the end of the day, again, you need to have that conversation with somebody before you go and take those steps and just say it's mine, because that's never a good thing.
No, it isn't. And I want to thank you so much, Nicole, for coming on the show and just sharing with us this very interesting information that I'm sure is incredibly helpful to our listeners. We are looking forward to seeing you soon, and I'm sure we'll be delving into some new and interesting topics with these upcoming changes in the law. We'll look forward to seeing you again soon, and thanks again.
Thank you.